All right, let's go. Yes. Who am I here with? Who am I with?
Dodgy rat.
Woo! Dodgy rat. They probably can't hear
Dodgy
you.
rat's back.
Well-
Dodgy rat's back.
So you want to upgrade that Windows Home to Windows Pro? Or just get killer prices on Windows Office 2016 and cheap gaming keys? Head on down to 0 and 9. Make sure you copy and paste my code from the description to get a price that's going to make you go, woo! You've seen the rest of the 2080s. Now let's look at the best. Now that's pretty presumptuous, I know. But if someone makes a better RTX 2080 than this, well, I'll just tip my hat to them because it'll take some serious card to beat this one. Now when it comes to price, I'm not even going to go there. If you can get one of these, well, lucky you, because they're sold out pretty much everywhere here in Australia, pretty much everywhere. Usually $50 US over the Founders Edition price, and it is well worth that $50 because this is much better than the Founders card, much cooler. Much more features, which we'll get to, and seriously, this blew me away, this card. You're going to want to stay tuned. So it is a 3-fan design, as you can see, 3 fans at the front. They're actually a different design to the 1080 Ti model. They seem thinner and lighter. You also have the RGB slits at the front, and of course this syncs with Aura Sync. So if you have an ROG set up, yep, you can sync it with all your stuff. If we look on the top, look at it. It is big, it is thick, 2.7 slotter. You can see the measurements here. You're going to make sure your case can fit this. You have the ROG logo that lights up on the top. You also have 2 8-pin connectors there, where the Founders model only has an 8 and a 6. If you have a look at the back plate, you can see the ROG logo that lights up, RGB there, of course, some Asus Strix graphics, and you also have a button there. You can turn the RGB on and off. That is awesome. You don't have to mess around with software. You can just turn it on and off. Also, when you look at the top, you have a BIOS switch. And this BIOS switch allows you to switch between performance mode and quiet mode. You have to reboot every time you do it. For I/O, we have everything you need here. 2 DisplayPort 1.4s, 2 HDMI 2.0s and USB-C. And at the front end of the card you have fan headers, so 2 fan headers there, so you can run your case fans off this graphics card, and you also have an RGB header there. So that's where the money goes. This massive heatsink that is just out of this world. The RGB, the RGB headers as well, and the fan headers, and it's all housed in a really strong chassis because this thing doesn't sag very much at all. Auto Extreme Technology, so the PCB is 100% machine made, so much less chance of having a fault there, and the cold plate has 2 times the amount of contact, so it's a bigger cold plate, and it's also machined to that high of a standard that it obviously contacts twice as good if you look at it under a microscope compared to the other models, but that's what thermal paste is for, right? So 8GB GDDR6 RTX 2080. So why are you going to pay this extra money for this Strix? I mean, they always sell out here. I mean, the Strix usually cost a little bit more. They sell out regardless. They don't need to really advertise. Everybody wants the Strix. They have the best resale value. So why is that? And it's just because they run so cool. They are so quiet, reliable. They overclock to the max. This card will not hold you back. Now, Nvidia have set a power limit on all these 2080s. Depending on which card you get, there'll be different limits. There can be 20-25% extra power. And while some RTX cards will be limited by their thermals, this one will not be, because overclock like a beast. I could get 2100 megahertz easily with nearly 200 megahertz on the memory as well. And this thing here in performance mode, low 50 degrees. And thanks for Dodgy Dave for providing me with the computers to test this. But I have his angry purple monster, and that has a 1080 Ti Strix in it, and it is friggin' water cooled, and it runs in the 50s. This card here, this 2080, runs the same temperature as a water cooled 1080 Ti, and it's fantastic. So this cooler that goes on this actually goes on the 2080 Ti. So under full load gaming, low 50 degrees, that just friggin' blew me away. And when I set it to quiet mode, low 60s. Now I tested it in a couple of machines, but when I put it in a Define R5 case, I could not even hear it in performance mode. Actually, the pump of the all-in-one was louder, and I had to go right next to it to barely hear it. When it was in silent mode, I could not hear it at all in that Fractals Define R5 case. Now that has some sound deadening material in it, but friggin' insane, these temperatures. And actual fact, I would just leave it on performance mode because I could barely hear it. And I'm getting temperatures like low 50s, like even overclocked. When I overclocked it, I was still getting low to mid 50s. That is friggin' insane. And compared to the hairdryer I used to have, the Titan X, man, this is just another world. So when it comes to performance, I tested this all at 4K. So PUBG 4K high settings, 74 frames per second. We have GTA 5, very high settings, 92 frames per second. Fortnite, 81 frames per second. This is at Epic. Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which is a system crusher. You know, high settings, 57 frames per second. Witcher 3, high settings, 59 frames per second. So this thing here is easily a 4K 60 frames per second at high settings. And you know, the other games, you know, 70 frames, 90 frames, 80 frames. 4K, high settings. This has got you covered. And when I compared it to a 1080 Ti and I tested it on a Ryzen system and an 8700K PC and at 4K, there was no real difference there. Trades blow for blow with the 1080 Ti with the slight advantage to this RTX 2080. This RTX 2080 was cooler and quieter. Now, given that the 1080 Ti and the RTX 2080 are very close in performance, why would you pay this much more? And I would say that this RTX 2080 in 6 months' time, once the drivers mature, will open up a bit of a gap over the 1080 Ti. And if ray tracing and deep learning super sampling really become a thing, then you're going to even get a better performance out of this. So I guess that's up to you which way you want to go there. But if you're interested in RTX 2080 and you want the best, you want the coolest, the quietest, you know, with all the extra features of the RGB headers and the fan headers, you know it's going to be reliable. This is the way you go. And with prices so crazy, at least you know this is a valuable item, and the other cards may depreciate, but this one's going to hold its value there. So anyway, you're going to have some live gameplay here and watch those temperatures. Seriously, watch the temperature, watch the clock. Friggin' amazing. Low 50s and barely could hear it. This is what I want. Definitely. I have ordered a 2080 Ti Founders Edition just because it come up for pre-order first. And I had no idea when the other cards were coming out in Australia. But that will be sold and I'll be getting a Strix 2080 Ti. That is for sure. I can guarantee you that. So anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Check out this gameplay. And until next time, guys, tally ho. All right, let's go, let's go, let's go. Yes, yes, yes. Who am I here with? Who am I with?
Dodgy rat.
Woo! Dodgy rat. They probably can't hear
Dodgy
you.
rat's back.
Well,
Dodgy rat's back.
I don't even know if they can actually hear you. But, all right, so I've got the GTX. Did I say GTX? RTX 2080. RTX 2080. Top floor. Hey, top floor, top floor. Everybody go top floor. RTX 2080 Strix. Okay, I've got it in performance mode. We've got a squad here, squad. It's in performance mode. Are they going top floor? No, they're not. They're not. They're not. They're not. Oh. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so guess what temperature it's running at. So this is running in performance mode, Dodgy. Oh, I was just about to go for that. It's running in performance mode. Oh, hello, thank you. It's running in performance mode now. All right, so it's running flat stick. Leave match, no, I want to spectate. Where's this guy going? What temperature you reckon it's running at?
50.
You reckon it's running at 50 flat stick?
Yeah.
We're talking to 2080, right? So these are supposed to be hotter.
Alright, 60.
Yeah, you're right. It was like 51, 52 degrees.
Yeah.
That's in performance mode, Dodgy. It's running at 1965, like
Yeah, that's good. That's
boost clock. You can't even hear it. All I can hear is the fan. Do not swear. You're a naughty boy.
Oh, aren't we allowed to swear?
Oh, you can swear. I'll just have to beep it out. I'm family friendly show, mate. Come on.
Oh, okay. So
I cannot believe that it's running this cool. Like, that's really cool. 52 degrees.
that's real good.
Running flat stick, and I can put it in silent mode and it will get hotter, but I don't even know why you'd actually need to put it in silent mode because it's running so quiet now. Like I can hardly hear it.
Crap out of me.
Oh God, that made me jump too.
Oh, I was minding my own bloody business, eh?
Couldn't you hear it?
Nah, no, not the, no. Because
Okay.
you were talking, so
Yeah, sorry.
I was listening to you.
I can't believe it's running so cool, and this is performance mode. And I actually just had to check because let's go.
That's really, really good.
Yeah, I actually just had to check because I didn't believe that it was in performance mode.
At 50, yeah.
50? Nah, it's got to run hotter than that. It must be just this game doesn't peg it that hard or something. I'll actually overclock it. I'll just give it a quick... I'll try and get it over 2 gigahertz. Where have we got? Afterburner here. Where is Afterburner? It's not even showing up.
You took it off, didn't you?
Alright, so I'll run the clock at about 50. Oh. I'll give it a mild overclock. So holy crap, that went up to 2070 megahertz.
That's good.
Straight away, and still 51 degrees. In performance mode, I can't even really hear it. The only thing I can hear is the bloody CPU fan.
Oh yeah, they're noisy, they're shit.
So, this is amazing. Like, it's going 2070. And that's just like a easy 50 megahertz overclock. The temperature hasn't even risen since I've overclocked it. That's pretty good. Wow.
So the TI should be...
Who's that?
Oh,
It's that Buster Nut!
Buster Nuts in the house!
what's going on, boys?
What are you doing?
Oh, I just got home from Queensland. So,
Queensland?
Yeah, didn't
good?
you know?
Is it hot?
Oh, actually, it wasn't. It was like raining most of the days, surprisingly.